Hi, Michael Bender, Center for Fiscal Equity. This is the promised winners and losers portion of my presentation on tax reform. Who wins, who loses? Poorer people win. Poorer people win because the child tax credit goes up, and presumably minimum wages go up so that people aren't paid just by their child tax credit. So imagine, pay attention. If you don't want child tax credit payments to be welfare, then make it pay to go to work. Increase the minimum wage, double the minimum wage, and double the child tax credit too. Make work mean something. Nobody should be poor in this economy. So also winning would be people without better educations, because there's a provision in the child tax credit or in the subtraction VAT, especially if it's local, to pay for tuition costs and for time in class costs for people with ESL, college, VOTEC, remedial, and the payment of their tuition for children, either public or private, or charter schools, public or private charters, or parochial charter schools. Yeah, the parochial schools, if they could make up big time. So if you like Catholic schools, if you fund schools by tax credit or tax assignment, then yeah, there's no reason why you couldn't support that system as well as supporting the public system. And and competition, that may or may not be good for teachers, it's not the teachers, it's the administrators. I'm no big fan of large public school bureaucracies. Principals should work to be principals, not then principals as a step toward assistant superintendent, superintendent. There shouldn't be a career ladder there. Sorry guys, but the Catholic schools can do it without a career ladder. You can too. And that allows more parental control. So parents and people who say parents should have more control, would like more charter schools and a subtraction VAT that can then distribute money either for the students or for the employers, or by the employers. So contributions. So. The environment wins because a carbon added tax would provide receipt visibility and would directly fund research and transportation and enforcement. You could also fund this by a higher invoice value added tax. Who also wins by invoice value added taxes? Exporters. Because right now the current tax system, which is independent income tax, individual income tax loaded, would be is an export tax essentially, because there are some taxes that foreign importers should not have to pay for, like Social Security, like Medicare, like spending on highways. Some things would be border adjustable, but some things would not. And the things that are border adjustable though would be huge. So exporters, it would change the margin. So which means foreign workers, or American workers, it's good for them, and American manufacturers, it's good for them. People who don't want to see the IRS exist. States would collect subtraction VATs, both the federal portion and the state portion, and they would have a common base. Also, they would the invoice VAT and and the carbon VAT. Those would all be collected at the state level, and some might be done by the Customs Service. That's a logistical concern. Probably some of them would function as a tariff, but which again, also good for manufacturing. But people who don't want the IRS be a distant thing. There'll be plenty of jobs in states for those who lose their IRS jobs. But if you want to get rid of the IRS, if you want to get rid of personal income taxation, this plan is for you. And if you don't want to pay it, it's for you. If you want to not leave the national debt to your children, and by your children, I don't mean every single man, woman, and child, or every single child for every worker. The only people who actually owe the debt are the people who pay the income taxes, because that's what finances the debt. Sorry to tell you, all you people who think you owe, hundreds of thousands of dollars in your family of four, or think that they owe them. No. The ability to run a debt is based on the ability to collect income taxes in the United States. So your debt obligation and your children's debt obligation is tied to your income. So if you are a high-income individual, you owe a big bill. Let's get that out of the way now. So if you want to pay that big bill, you want to pay more. Trust me on this. Because eventually your kids' assets, your kids' debt holdings, because they hold the debt too, will be worthless. So if you don't want your debt assets to be worthless, and the top 10% owes 77% of mutual fund and directly held debt bonds, and 55% of long-term assets, and 55% of the assets linked to currency. If you want that money to be good and those investments to be good, you should start paying down, because the Europeans aren't going to be stupid forever. They're going to tie their euro to their taxes and their debt, and if they're as good at managing their money and debt as we are, then we are out of luck. China too. So it's winners and losers. If you're tax prepared, you lose. Just like IRS. If you live on filing taxes for people who don't speak English well, or aren't or who just are not math whizzes and business whizzes, accountants, that job's gone, because you don't need a tax preparer to pay for an invoice VAT. If you're an heir, and you want to keep your family business or your family farm, this plan is good for you, because you don't have to sell when you inherit. Especially if you were a mega inheritor, you wouldn't have to sell your shares. You get to, until you sell those family shares, that family land, that family farm, you pay no taxes. You pay no taxes on the tax you get, because you'll have to pay for taxes when you buy things. And if you buy more shares, you got to pay tax on that. But just getting the money, there's no tax on that in this plan. And it's who does lose? If you get out of the family business, you got to pay. You got to pay your freight like everybody else. If you borrow money against your assets, Jeff Bezos, then in a wealth tax, people like Bezos and Zuckerberg, they can borrow against their fortunes and spend for that and not pay taxes. In this case, if you spend, you pay. So if you're on Wall Street and you've got this great plan, first of all, you pay your asset VAT when the plan comes about, or when you sell whatever scheme. But if you're selling the scheme to somebody else, guess what? You pay when you sell the scheme. All those people who are get money for nothing, they'll pay. And if you are a citizen who doesn't like people avoiding taxes, this is a good thing for you. This plan is. If you need health care, if you think that we should expand health care, and wondering where to get the money, this is how you do that. Medicare for all. If you want, and Medicare for all includes states not paying for Medicaid. Let's make this really clear. A public option and Medicare Part E would take over Medicaid that states pay. So if you're in the states, not only do you have to pay, you collect a little more money and you send it to Washington, but yeah, and if people have more money individually, all those aid programs, aside from educational programs, they go away. You don't have to have this army of social workers, the people who give training to people who need remedial learning or education, or ESL, they would take care of the social worker stuff. And people who are current social workers, they would be hired by those firms because there's enough need for social work. Believe me, there's a lot of people suffering that need good social workers. There is a demand for this job, this job title. So yeah, it's a high demand area, and you'll be working in better conditions than working in a government agency. So yeah, it's a win all around. So the wealthy win, the poor win. Anybody who doesn't like filing taxes wins. The people, small business owners, yeah, they'll have to still, probably pay the same taxes they pay, and the forms will be different, but they'll be time consuming, and hopefully there'll be software to do this because it should be easier in a VAT-based system to work out your costs than the current complicated system that we have now. So even if you're a small businessman or woman or family, you'd have to file as any other business does, but you would, if you pay yourself wages, that's, if it's under $85,000, you don't pay a tax on that. You would pay for Social Security taxes and if you own a business and you don't even make the minimum wage, then you don't pay those either. But you still would get money from the system because you are actually working. So yeah, it's a win. So everybody should if you realize what you can get from this, you should support this. It works out the problem of the tax gap. So everybody pays some, but they don't pay it through filing individual taxes. Gig employees, this is what I missed in the last try at this video. Gig employees win big because the incentive of having a tax credit distributed for employees means it's better to have employees, meaning they won't say, oh no, you're on your own. We'll give you money. You have to do your own withholding, your own reporting. There's not an incentive to do that if you get a tax break as an employer. It's a large employer. A large employer is better off offering the services, paying out the taxes to workers and their family, paying the credits rather for workers, the health insurance for their workers, the retirement to the workers, instead of dodging those bullets because they would be delivered in another way. So gig workers are good because the things that the tax avoidance that is in the current system wouldn't be avoided anymore because it would give employers credits in, and it should be worth it for the employers to not pay gig workers. Instead, you'd be in a company, and you wouldn't have to file taxes either. So all those 1099 people, it's good for you because you wouldn't have to do all the paperwork. So yeah, it's a win for everyone, aside from people who pay for the tax paying suffering of others. So this ends our series. Please like, support, share, become a Patreon. Links to other videos in the series are in the chat. If you have questions about this, if you're in the advocacy sector, if you're a company looking at this, supporting or not supporting it, in the executive or legislative branch, give us a call. The address will be in the comments. Thank you, or the description. Thank you very much. And please comment. I would love to hear your comments, your objections. Call me a socialist. Talk about it. Share. I hate this guy, or I love this guy. Either way, just share. Thank you.